Sex workers of Reddit, who was the grossest customer you've had? A friend of mine used to work at a brothel. She told me about a client, late 40s to mid 50s, who wanted her to wear his actual daughter's clothes and do some father/daughter age and incest play. He claimed it was the only way to satisfy his urges without doing something despicable. His daughter was 14 and he was bringing in her actual clothing. Apparently, he was a regular and would call ahead looking for young petite workers who were up for the extreme age play. My friend said she saw him once and was pretty creeped out by the experience, so declined him on further visits. She also said that as far as weird clients go, he was an ideal punter at face value. He was upfront about what he wanted, never pushed any of the girls' limits, and paid whatever they demanded, which unfortunately was not the standard behavior for every John. She did say that it was the most creepy client she had though. Thanks for reminding me how normal I am. Reddit. I wasn't a sex worker, but, as a taxi driver, I had many regulars amongst the sex trade. They all had the same character, they point blank refused to entertain. He didn't believe in washing either himself or his clothes. Reckoned it weakened a person. I was lucky enough to only have met him in the open air, but my nose was still traumatized. He was really miffed, because none of the ladies would entertain him and then I refused to take him in the car. LOL, no amount of money would have been worth that. Not gross, but I did have a guy that wanted to cut off my leg. Not me, someone I know creates content. Feet pics. Got paid $3,000 each for 2 photos. One of lacy undies on the floor around her bare feet like she'd dropped them. Other photo of her having taken a dump in the undies, dropped them, and then stood in it. She figured $6,000 for 2 photos that don't show her face isn't too bad. I was a phone sex worker. The amount of men who wanted me to be a cold dead girl was a bit disturbing. This blew up after I went to bed. A few people have asked how I managed to do a dead girl over the phone. Basically, I described the state of my corpse and they detailed how they wanted to abuse me. In answer to another frequent question, I'm not sure phone sex work exists anymore, as I did this in the early 2000s, before FaceTime and OnlyFans existed. Exotic dancer here. I watched a girl get on stage with a bottle of Heineken and put it into her vagina, then do a handstand effectively drinking it. She then stood back up and the beer went back into the bottle and someone paid her to drink it. I read the title as "Who was the greatest customer you ever had?" and was so fucking confused reading these replies. What I've learned so far: 1. Men have loose assholes too. Hide your nieces. My friend used to do this on the side cause extra cash, but she stopped when she had a guy pay her to peg him and then as she was doing it, he shit himself and didn't want her to stop. He told her that it felt better with that kind of lube. She said she had to stop and gather herself and proceeded, cause he was paying her $1,000 for the hour, but as she began again that's when he began to jerk off and come all over the bed underneath him. She said that room smelled so bad afterwards. She said as she was washing up and getting ready to leave, he was just laying on his cum and shit stained bed. Like she said, he's literally laying on his shit and cum and naked and pleased with himself. She says he wanted her to do it again as he was laying there, but this time he wanted to be on his back while they did it. She says I politely declined and told him I had to get to another appointment. I kind of have to take a shit. I'm seriously wondering if I should go to the bathroom or put an ad online and see if I can make a quick $3,000. I had a client who scraped the crotch of my panties with a knife, then put the scapings in his pipe and smoked it. I have a friend who was a pro-dom in a dungeon in NYC for a few years, and she had a regular client who was an FBI agent. He was into mummification and would come in once a month to be bound in a body bag for 48 hours at a time. I was a sex worker/escort for 2 years. I was hired by a 73-ish-year-old professor, nice-sized public university. He hired me to go to his office and give him blowjobs. Yes, it was on campus grounds. Anyway, I'm giving him head and I smelled something foul. I wanted to stop, and as soon as I was about to, I see a lump of shit lodged in between his ass cheeks. I didn't want to embarrass him, but told him that I was ready to go. I never agreed to see him again. I did bottle service at a strip club for a while. This is a story from a bar back I was friends with. He was working at another club prior and was friends with a stripper who had some wealthy regular customer that would pay her to pee in a glass and he would drink it. She couldn't pee that night, so asked the bar back to pee in the cup for her. He did, and the customer sat and drank it. Why did I learn English? Person facepalming light skin tone. This thread is making me second guess my no kink shaming stance. Some people should definitely be shamed. I had a client shit himself while I was blowing him, then got mad when I stopped blowing him. According to him, all men shit themselves while feeling extreme pleasure. Edit, you need to stop asking me if that's the professor. Definitely not, he was not old. And I'm based in Canada on a tiny little island. Edit, yes. Blumpkin. What's with all the men coming and shitting themselves at the same time? WTF. Edit, great, now my top most upvoted comment of all time is about shit and cum LMAO. Definitely the one that had head cheese after he washed. Second is the one, multiple, sadly, with dingleberries. I've had them piss themselves, I've had them shit themselves. I've had them puke and whatnots. All just fine. Rancid, but I can deal with that. The ones with dingleberries were the most disgusting, usually high-placed jobs, like CEO of a Fortune 500, etc. Not a clue when it comes to washing your butt, let alone be aware of the clumps of literal shit that hang there, because they don't wash properly and they don't even care. The absolute worst was the head cheese expecting me to suck him off after he supposedly washed properly. Nope, 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 nope. I gagged visibly and audibly. Lectured him about washing under the skin and kicked him out. I couldn't even look at it without gagging. My brother once was the maintenance guy in a brothel in Switzerland. One morning a guy came in and asked if the used condoms from the night before were still available. He wanted to buy, open, and eat them. Every time I think about that story, it makes my mind crawl. A coworker's mother came in and paid another coworker to spank her. But the mom said she wanted to be able to hear it. I gave a lap dance to what I thought was a couple. They were brother and sister. Men wanting to smell sweaty ass and watch me shit. I'm a phone sex worker, so this is all fantasy. There are entirely too many poop and pedophilia stories in these comments. Nauseated face. Not a sex worker myself, but heard this from friend who was. There is a well-known lawyer in our town who has had commercials for his office on longer than I've been alive. He shows himself in a grand, beautiful office, with gold-colored decorations and a gigantic portrait of his wife. But my friend and every other sex worker in town have all said, you would be shocked by what the people in this town are into. Every single one of them has used this guy as the weirdest example. He has a glass table in his office and pays prostitutes to crap on it while lays underneath and watches them do it. It's not harmful or anything, just really gross. One day, for my college newspaper, I had to interview this man in his office and saw the glass table where it happens. Fortunately, I withheld the vomit in my mouth. This is more just an interesting story, but my mom used to be a prostitute in the 1970s. She worked at a massage parlor where she says she was the queen of hand jobs. She just turned 70 this year. Anyway, she said one of her regular customers would bring hydrogen peroxide to their weekly appointment and he would first pour hydrogen peroxide all over her private parts, then pour hydrogen peroxide in his mouth, swish, spit it out. Then, he'd go down on her for an hour. When they were finished, he'd swish his mouth with more hydrogen peroxide and be on his way. Definitely not her grossest client, but I always found this story to be interesting. I thought a femdom customer of mine was into latex puppy / mistress play. But nope, turns out he meant a real dog. FYI, I checked out at Peanut Butter Man. A client that I really liked once sharted on a white hotel bedspread. I almost cried. I had to wash the tuna in that one spot and flip it and sandwich a towel on the bottom and a top sheet with a towel underneath. Not enough money in the world for that one.